In this video, we'll be looking at the difference between the selection tool and the direct selection tool and how to use each. Your selection tools are going to be found on the top row of your left toolbar. The selection tool is this black outlined arrow, while the direct selection tool is this white filled in arrow. Alternatively, you can press V on your keyboard to bring up the selection tool and A on your keyboard to bring up the direct selection tool. The selection tool is what you use to select entire objects or entire groups of objects. And it's what's used to move these objects and scale these objects. The direct selection tool is used for manipulating specific parts of objects, such as a single path or a single anchor point, or to select one object within a group. Let's take a closer look at what we can do with the direct selection tool. So if we have objects with a fill, we can use our direct selection tool and click anywhere within that fill, making sure to not be touching a path or anchor, to select that entire object and then move it independent of the group. As we can see, if I had my normal selection tool out, I tried to select just this one object and move it, it would move the entire group, and I'd have to ungroup these objects in order to move just this one square. If I click on a path or an anchor using the direct selection tool, I can now manipulate any of those paths or anchors independent of the rest of the shape or group. You can tell which anchor you have selected with the direct selection point tool because the anchor point here will be filled in. As you can see, this is a solid blue square, while these are hollow white outline squares. I can hold Shift on my keyboard with the direct selection tool out to select multiple anchor points. Now I can edit both of these anchor points simultaneously and skew my square. I can also use my direct selection tool to delete specific parts of an object or shape. For example, with these stroked objects, if I wanted to delete a path, I could simply click on that path with my direct selection tool and then hit delete on my keyboard. And that will delete just that one path while retaining the rest of the shape. I can also do this with anchor points. If I were to click on this top right corner, then hit delete, it would delete that anchor point and therefore the two paths connected to it, and I'm left with this L shape here. Finally, I can use my direct selection tool to edit the curves of an organic shape like this. If I were to click on this shape to select the whole shape, you can see all of the anchor points are selected here. If I want to edit just this one curve, I can click again on this anchor, and as you'll see, deselects the rest of the anchor points, and now I have just this top anchor selected. This will allow me to use these handles to adjust my curve or to move this anchor point altogether. This can be very helpful when you're creating curved shapes with the pen tool for going back and fine-tuning your curves to make sure that you have the smoothest path possible. To recap, the selection tool is used for selecting entire shapes or entire groups of shapes and is what you use when you want to transform these shapes as a whole. For example, to scale the whole shape or to round all of the corners on the entire shape. The direct selection tool is used for selecting specific anchor points, paths, or selecting one object within a group to edit independently.